I'll give you a ring this evening. All right. Bye, Danny. Bye. Hi, it's Sean Gallagher here again. So this is my third video on the many roads to Santiago. And in this video today, what I'm going to do is talk about the different Camino routes as recorded by in the office, the Pilgrim office in Santiago, and also the different starting points. And maybe a little bit then about the nationalities of the pilgrims, the travellers who actually arrive in Santiago. What I will do then, I will do 3 further videos, one which will be on the routes in France, one which will be on the routes in the Iberian Peninsula in Spain and Portugal, and the other one will be on like the short routes, the sort of 100 kilometre to 130 kilometres, which a lot of people want to do because that gives them the Compostela by doing a minimum of 100k walking. So what I'm going to use the statistics as gathered in the Pilgrim office in Santiago, where they record people who have actually walked into Santiago. Obviously, the Camino with the greatest number of pilgrims on, with travellers on, is the Camino Frances. Bring this over here. So you all know now that the Camino Frances is the one that starts over here in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port on the French side of the Pyrenees. It comes through the Pyrenees and down to Pamplona, through Logrono, through the Rioja region, across to Burgos, then over to Leon, and then Ponferrada, and then coming into Galicia through Sarria, and onto Santiago. So by far and away the most popular route, with about 55% of the pilgrims in 2019 walking along that route. That has actually fallen since 2004 though. In 2004 the number of people, if you want, arriving in Santiago who came on that route was 77%, which I think is good if you want, that people are finding other routes other than staying to the Camino Frances. And the one that has benefited most, so the one that's in second place, is the Portuguese Camino. So the Portuguese Camino, many people start in Lisbon, but more people start further up in Porto. And from Porto there are 2 routes. There's one which comes up the coast, so it comes through Vigo to Redondela, and then up to Santiago. And there's the one that goes inland, and it goes through a beautiful town of Ponte de Lima, and then inland up to Redondela, and then again up to Santiago. And the Portuguese Caminos, they've actually increased from, in 2004, only 8.8% of the people who are walking in Santiago, right up to now 27%. So the numbers who are walking this pilgrimage route now have increased pretty spectacular over the last few years. The next one on the list is the Camino, the northern Camino, which comes along this northern coast of Spain from Irún through San Sebastian, through Bilbao, Ribadesella, and then comes down into Santiago. Right, quite a tough Camino, as you'd imagine, nearer to the coast, so much more hillier. But in 2019, we had 19,000 people walked into Santiago from that route, which is just over 5%, whereas in 2004 it was 4%. So percentage-wise, not a lot of change in the number of people using the northern route. And then an interesting one is what's called the English Camino. And 15,000 people walked the English Camino in 2019. So just over 4%, 4.5%. And that's gone up quite a lot from 2004 as well, when there was only 2% of total pilgrims walking. So the English route is from La Coruña and Ferrol. Right, Ferrol and La Coruña are two ports on the northern coast of Galicia. So that pilgrims who were coming from the United Kingdom and from Northern Europe, right, what they would have done, they would have sailed to La Coruña and Ferrol, to these ports. So they may have walked considerable way in England or in their own home country, like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, before getting on the boats, getting on the ships and coming to the north coast here. So if you want, their pilgrimage might have involved several miles in England before starting to walk again once they got off the boats in Ferrol or La Coruña. And there's definitely been an increase in the number of people who are now using that particular route, so coming into Santiago from the north. The next one on the list from the Pilgrim Office is the Camino Primitivo, which is also known as the original way. Right, so remember, the pilgrimage, travelling to Santiago, started in about 850 when the remains of St. James were found in what is now where the cathedral is, in Santiago de Compostela. So the first pilgrims would have come from the neighbouring region to Galicia, which is Asturias. So the first pilgrims would have made their way from Oviedo into Santiago. So Oviedo is up here, coming down this route and joining, if you want, the French way, the French Camino here in Melide. But that route from Oviedo, now more and more people, if you want, also walking on that route. So that's the Primitivo Camino. And then I was rather surprised at this, that the next one on the list is the route from Seville, which is called the Via de la Plata. It's an old Roman road, but the numbers on that route in 2019 are only 9,000. Right, so the numbers of people walking on this route, the Via de la Plata, in 2019 were 9,200, but back in 2004 there was 9,300. So the number, as a percentage, it's actually the route, if you want, where the number of pilgrims walking has fallen considerably down from 5% in 2004 to 2.5% in 2019. And I will talk more about this particular route in later Caminos. I'm just thinking back that I walked this Camino in 2011 and 2012, and for me it's one that I do want to go back and do again. I mean, fantastic cities, ones that before actually walking I'd not heard of it. Merida, which was the home of Roman centurions, up through Cacares, and then through Banos and to Salamanca. And I would say that Salamanca is probably my most favourite city in Spain. There's a lot of beautiful cities in Spain, but for me Salamanca is probably my favourite. On the list then, the next ones are Caminos from Finisterre and Murcia. Right, so they're actually within Galicia itself. They're over here. So Finisterre is here and Murcia is up there, right? Both on, if you want, the western coast. So in going back traditionally, many pilgrims would have walked to Santiago, would have then walked to Finisterre, which people at that time thought was the end of the earth. Finisterre. There is a Finisterre in France as well, but they thought that this was it. So after that, there was no more land away from there. So people do walk from there to Murcia and Finisterre, but they also walk the other way from those coastal places into Santiago. The next one on the list is the Camino Invierno, and 1,000 people walked on that one in 2019. And basically what that means is it's the winter Camino. So where pilgrims, traditionally, the early pilgrims would have walked, instead of from Ponferrada coming over the mountains here, they would have come an easier way around this way and then picked up the route from Seville coming in through here. So obviously it gets pretty busy in Galicia itself, and there's lots of roads going into Santiago, not just the French road. Now, as you'd expect, because the most popular route is the Camino Frances, the places where people start their walk from, quite a few of them. So if you want in the list of 21, the top 8 are all on the Camino Frances. So the busiest one, and 99,000 people in 2019, so it's only like 28% of all people walking into Santiago walked in from Sarria. Right, so Sarria by far and away the most popular, and this is the one that a lot of the companies, if you want, who are organising walks, and if you Google Camino walk from Sarria, you probably get at least 10 companies who will tell you that they will arrange your accommodation, they will move your bags, and they will take you from Sarria into Santiago. So 99,000 people start their walk from Sarria. The next busiest place is going back to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which has always been like a traditional starting point for pilgrims, the start of the Camino Frances, because 3 of the routes, 4 main routes in France, and 3 of them converge on Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. The other one comes through the Col de Saint-Port down to Jaca and makes its way over to Puente La Reina and joins up with the other ones. So the other starting points on the Camino Frances are Lyon, here, Burgos, Pamplona, and O Sobrero over here, as well as Astorga and Ponferrada. So quite many different starting places depending on how long people have got to walk for and how easy it is for them to get there. The next starting points on the list, there are some in the Portuguese ones, obviously Lisbon and Porto, and then further up, and we have Pontevedra and Redondela, so people walking in from there as well. There's only actually one on the list, which is other than Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is not in Portugal or Spain, and that is, and we can't get it on this map, but it's the start of this walk here, which is up in Le Puy. So Le Puy is the most popular starting point within France, other than Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. So I did say I was surprised by the number of people who are walking the Via de la Plata, and again surprised that there are no places on this route until you get into Galicia that are starting points. So for example, Seville doesn't feature, or Salamanca, or Cacares, or Merida. But again, I will mention this in a further video, but for me, I mean, I would definitely recommend people walking, for example, from Merida up to Salamanca. For getting to these places, if you're on this route here, probably the easiest way of getting there is by flying to Madrid and then getting buses or trains to Salamanca, Merida, or Zamora. And then if you want to travel up this route, probably the best way to do that is by bus. On this route, you come into Galicia through Orense, and that is if you're in the list of starting points. And that again is because it's one that a lot of the tourist companies, a lot of the tour operators, they arrange 5 days from Orense into Santiago. But that again is a beautiful town. As you'd expect, a high percentage of people are from Spain. But what is really good is I think over the period since 2000 is the evolution of foreign pilgrims travellers against if you want, the number of Spanish. So the number of Spanish pilgrims in 2004 was 76% of the total number, but now in 2019 it's only 42%. So as you'd expect, the percentage coming from other countries in Europe has gone up in that period. So the second on the list of nationalities of people walking into Santiago, after Spain, there's Italy and Germany, and then the United States, which has jumped up from only 2,000 in 2004 to over 20,000 in 2019. A lot of those would have been influenced by the film The Way, which I have mentioned before, with Martin Sheen. Next on the list are Portugal and France. And next then is the United Kingdom with, in 2019, 9,000 pilgrims, whereas in 2004 only 1,400. And I'm really pleased about that because obviously a lot of the countries on the list are Catholic countries like Spain, Italy, Germany, Portugal, France. But it's good that people are now recognising that you don't have to be a devout Catholic to walk on the routes to Santiago. So more and more people walking from the United Kingdom. The next one on the list, completely shocked by this one, it was Korea. And in 2019, 8,000 people originally from Korea walked into Santiago, compared with in 2004, only 18. Clearly, I need to find out what's going on there. I mean, maybe a famous Korean has written a book on walking into Santiago, or again, there may be a Korean film on Santiago. But that was by far the one with the biggest increase. Also on the list, the top 10, we've got Ireland with 7,000 pilgrims in 2019, up from just over 500 in 2004. Also on the list then we've got Brazil, Australia, Canada, Poland. But the list itself is about 150 different countries, so people from all over the world are walking into Santiago. So thanks for listening to this video, and I will go into further detail in another video on the walks in the 4 main routes in France, then the main routes in Spain, and then another one on the shorter routes in Spain, the ones of about between 100 and 150 kilometres. But thank you very much for listening.